Exorcism of the Nun. True horror story. Real exorcism documentary. The church shakes before anyone speaks. Candles jump, the air drops cold like a door to winter has opened. In the center of the old hall, a young woman in a simple grey dress sits strapped to a wooden chair. Her name is Maria. A silver cross hangs from her neck and trembles against her chest. On one side stands Father Edmund with a prayer book. On the other side stands Father Steve with holy water. The sisters form a circle and whisper psalms that sound like wind through trees. Maria lifts her head. Her eyes look darker than night. Her voice comes out in two layers, soft and low at once, like a radio catching two stations. "You called me," she says, but it does not sound like Maria. The candles bend toward her, then away, as if they can breathe. A crack runs along the wall behind the altar, thin, long, and new. Father Edmund raises his voice. "In God's name, leave her." The room moans like a storm beginning. Every light goes out at the same time. Black. A single breath, sharp and scared, breaks the silence. Then a sound like a rope tightening. Hold there, this is the highest point. This is where our story proves its title. Exorcism of the Nun. Now let's step back because horror grows roots long before it grows teeth. It began on the last Saturday of March in a quiet New England city inside St. Mary's Sacred Heart Church. A red brick building with tall windows and a small bell that rings like a kind voice. The church was also a home for young women in training to become nuns. They lived upstairs in clean rooms with quilted blankets and old wooden floors that creaked in friendly ways. They took classes on prayer and service. They cooked for the hungry. They swept the halls. Many of them had left big dreams behind to choose a different kind of life. That evening, during prayer, the head of the Hughes, Mother Agnes, introduced someone new. "Sisters," she said, smiling, "this is Maria. She is 22. She comes to us with a heart open to God." Maria stepped forward, thin and quiet. Her hair was tied back. Her hands were folded. She did not smile. Her eyes looked heavy, like she had carried too many nights without sleep. When the prayers ended, she bowed, then walked to her room without a word. Two girls watched her go. One was Rachel, small and sharp, who noticed everything. The other was Monica, taller and gentle, who noticed when noticing might hurt. "She seems far away," Rachel whispered. "Give her time," Monica said. "New places make people quiet." But Rachel could not forget Maria's eyes. They did not look shy. They looked lost, like a person at the wrong train station. The next morning, the sisters filed into the chapel for early prayer. Sunlight fell through the stained glass in soft colors. Blue like water, red like rose, gold like late afternoon. Rachel took her usual place in the second row. She saw Maria slip to the back in the shadow near the side door. As the hymn began, Rachel heard another sound. Words, fast and soft, like someone talking to a friend on the phone, but trying not to be heard. Maria's lips moved. The words didn't match the hymn. They didn't sound like English or Latin. They didn't sound like any language Rachel knew. The strange part wasn't the words. It was the voice. It had two notes, one soft and one deep, like two people speaking through their same mouth. Rachel's skin prickled. She told herself she was being dramatic. New girls murmur. Nerves make odd sounds. It is easy to be spooked in a room full of whispers and candles. She focused on the hymn until the feeling slid away. The day passed in simple ways. The sisters served lunch at the shelter. Maria helped stack boxes. She worked in silence, head down fast and neat. When her child said, "Thank you," Maria lifted her eyes and gave a small nod. But her face did not change. That night, the girls folded laundry in the common room. Monica played quiet piano. Rachel tried to start a small talk with Maria. "Where are you from? Do you like music? Do you paint?" Maria answered politely, but with small, flat words. When she excused herself for bed, Rachel watched her go and felt that same cold prickle at the base of her neck. Later, after lights out, Rachel turned in bed. The hall clock ticked. The house hummed. She thought of Maria's blank face, the dark rings under her eyes, the way her mouth moved during prayer. Curiosity is not a sin, she told herself. It is a door. But some doors do not like to be opened. Even so, she slipped on a sweater and tiptoed into the hall. The old floor squeaked in spots. Rachel knew which boards to avoid. She moved like a shadow past the classroom and the tiny library with its picture of St. Francis and quiet birds. At Maria's door she paused. A thin line of light glowed at the threshold. Rachel leaned to the window and cupped her hands to block the hall's light. She looked in. Maria sat in a chair. Her arms and legs were folded in tight, awkward ways, as if she had been placed there like a doll. Her head tipped too far to one side, chin almost on shoulder. Her hair covered most of her face, but Rachel saw enough to feel her breath stop. The hollows around the eyes, the dry, cracked lips. The skin pulled tight across her cheeks. Maria's lips moved. The whisper floated through the glass, soft and low at once, like two people talking over each other. Rachel tried to pull back from the window, but her hand slipped on the frame. The chair creaked. Maria's head turned too quickly, and the hair fell from her face. Their eyes met. Rachel's body made a choice before her mind did. She ran. The hall stretched long and strange. Her feet slapped the wood. The clock on the wall clicked too loud. Her room felt too far. She tripped in the doorway. The sound she made brought the house awake, doors opening, bang, slippers scuffing, voices calling. Mother Agnes arrived first, with Father Steve from the rectory right behind her. What happened? Are you hurt? What did you see? Rachel pointed to Maria's room, still shaking. Mother Agnes hurried to the window. She looked in. Her face changed. Not fear exactly, more like a teacher who sees smoke in a classroom and knows there is no time to ask who struck the match. She signed herself with the cross and unlocked the door. Maria, she called gently. It's Mother Agnes. Maria did not answer. The whispering faded. In the silence, Father Steve said a simple prayer. He did not raise his voice. He did not make drama. He simply stood there holding the small silver cross he always wore, and spoke like a man, asking light to please come in. That night they moved Maria to the small room near the chapel where the walls were thick and the light was steady. They did not say the word possession. They said disturbance. They said oppression. They said Maria needs help. The words we choose are doors too. They open to different halls. Morning came with fog pressed against the windows. The sisters stood outside Maria's door and prayed together. Inside, her voice rose and fell. Sometimes it sounded like crying. Sometimes like a song in a low key. Father Steve opened the door and stepped in with a little glass vial. He touched a fingertip to the holy water and made a small sign on Maria's wrist, then on her forehead. Her skin flinched like metal under a cold hand. She gasped and fell quiet. For a few breaths, the whole house seemed to rest. The rest of that day was low and ordinary, the way days after storms can be bright and slow. Maria slept almost without moving. When she woke, she looked small and young, like a college student after a long exam. Water, she whispered, and drank gratefully. She thanked Mother Agnes. She said she was sorry for the trouble. She did not remember much. She slept again. 2 days went by in soft hours. The sisters spoke in normal voices. Rachel almost believed she had scared herself for nothing. She sat with Monica at the window and watched a line of sparrows hop on the wall outside. Maybe it's over, Monica said. Rachel nodded but felt the tiniest hollow inside, like the air before a second clap of thunder. On the third night, the house tipped again. It began with simple things. A candle in the chapel burned low and then, without a draught, went tall and bright. A lamp in the hall flickered once, off then on, as if trying to wink at someone. A clock paused for the length of 2 heartbeats and then jumped forward. Rachel carried a tray to Maria's room. Soup, bread, a little dish of applesauce. Dinner, she said, trying to sound cheerful. Maria sat up and smiled a small, tired smile. For a moment, everything felt normal. She took the spoon, said thank you, and began to eat. Then something changed. Her hand sped up. The spoon scraped the bowl too fast. The bread disappeared in 3 bites. The applesauce was gone before Rachel could blink. Maria looked at the empty tray with a strangest sharp hunger still in her face, then set the spoon down softly and folded her hands like a student waiting for the next lesson. More? Rachel asked carefully. No, thank you, Maria said in a small, polite voice. Her eyes stayed on the wall, as if listening to something far away. That night, Rachel woke to a sound like a radio between stations. She sat up. The sound grew clearer. Voices, layered, none of them friendly. She slipped into the hall. Lights burned low. The sound came from the chapel. The sisters gathered at the doorway. Father Stevie stood at the front pew, hands on the back of it, head bowed. In the center aisle, Maria knelt alone, back very straight, eyes on the altar. She whispered without pause. The words jumped languages, some Latin, some English, some like no language at all. Her voice moved from soft to deep and back again like 2 people switching places at the wheel of a car. Maria, Mother Agnes said, calm but firm. Come, child, rest. Maria did not turn. He hears me, she whispered. Who? Mother Agnes asked. The one who answered, Maria said, but it did not sound like her. After that night, Father Steve made a call. He spoke quietly on the rectory phone and chose his words with care. By afternoon, Father Edmund arrived from a parish in the next town. He carried no drama with him, just a worn leather prayer book and a face that looked like it had seen midnight and sunrise many times. He listened as Mother Agnes told the whole story in a clear, steady way. He nodded, asked for water, and went to meet Maria. He found her sitting by the window, hands folded around a small rosary. She looked up as he entered. For a long second, they simply watched each other, and the room felt like a scale finding balance after a long shake. Hello, Maria, he said softly. I'm Edmund. She opened her mouth like she might say hello back. What came out was a low, rough sound. Edmund did not flinch. He looked at Mother Agnes and Father Steve and said, We will pray tonight. They prepared the hall. They set a steady chair in the center, not because they wanted to tie anyone down, but because some storms blow chairs across rooms. They placed 4 small candles around it and a simple wooden cross on the wall. The sisters chose hymns they knew by heart. They did not talk about fear. They carried it quietly, the way you carry a cold bowl with 2 hands. Night came early, as if the sky did not want to watch. Maria took her place in the chair. She did not fight. She sat calm but too calm, like a river just before a fast fall. Father Edmund stood with the book. Father Steve held the vial of holy water. We pray for peace, Edmund said. We pray for rest. His voice felt like a steady hand on a shaking shoulder. At first, the prayer sounded normal. The sisters' voices joined and made a soft wall of sound. The candles burned even. Maria closed her eyes. She breathed in and out, slow and human, then she tensed. The breath caught. Her fingers curled. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes opened. They looked wrong, not because of color or shape, but because they did not look at anyone. They looked through. Why won't you leave her? Edmund asked. The air changed. The temperature fell. The tiny hairs on Rachel's arms lifted. A low tone rose in the room. Not a sound, really, more a pressure, like the feeling in your ears when a plane descends. Maria's mouth moved. The voice that came out was a tight whisper that still managed to fill the room. She called me, it said, as if repeating a private joke. Edmund did not argue. He began the prayers that were handed down for long years, the ones people use when they do not know what else to say, but still must say something firm and good. Shadows along the walls looked like they were breathing. A draft slipped through the hall without a door opening. One candle leaned and went out. Then the next, as if a careful hand pinched each wick in turn. The last candle burned alone, tall and steady like a stubborn friend. Maria's head tilted, the chair creaked. The low tone rose, then stopped so suddenly that everyone swayed. Stay with me, Edmund said, not to the voice, but to Maria. Her eyes flicked toward him, and for a heartbeat. They were just eyes. Young, scared, human. Help, she whispered. Then she stiffened, and the voice that wasn't hers laughed once, short and cruel. The way a door laughs when it slams. The last candle guttered and died. Darkness wrapped the room. Someone sucked in a breath. Someone else dropped a rosary and it clinked on the stone like a small bell. Father Steve thumbed his lighter and flame jumped up, but it did not catch any wick. The flame showed Maria's face in bits. Cheek, eye, mouth, like lightning shows a field. Rachel's heart hammered. Monica's hand found hers and squeezed hard. Then the rope sound came, tightening, pulling, and the chair scraped an inch across the floor without anyone touching it. We hold here again, at the edge of the highest place, because this is how our 2-chapter story breathes. High, low, high. What follows will push everything higher. The chair moved a second inch. Maria's head lifted, slow, like a person waking in a room she does not know. Her eyes opened all the way. A wind with no source hissed around the circle. Father Edmund raised the cross and opened his mouth, and the entire hall dropped into a deeper dark, as if someone put a lid on the night itself. His candles died all at once, leaving only the echo of Father Edmund's voice caught mid-prayer. The church fell silent except for the sound of breathing. Uneven, frightened, human. Then came the scraping of wood on stone. Maria's chair moved again, inch by inch, as if pulled by a slow, invisible hand. The ropes binding her wrists began to twitch. One of them snapped like dry thread. "Keep praying," Father Edmund shouted, his calm voice cracked for the first time. The sisters began chanting louder, their trembling voices filling the darkness. Father Steve's lighter flickered again and finally caught. The tiny flame lit the scene for a brief moment, just enough for everyone to see Maria's face. Her eyes were open wide, but they were not her eyes anymore. They were black, glossy, and empty. Her lips were moving, but the words didn't belong to any language the priest knew. The voice that came out of her mouth sounded both near and far, like something whispering through a tunnel. "You took what was mine," it said. Father Edmund held up the cross. "You have no place here. Leave her." Maria's head tilted, her mouth curling into a small, eerie smile. "She called me," the voice repeated, echoing from every corner of the church as though the walls themselves were speaking. She wanted him back. The priests exchanged quick, terrified glances. They didn't yet understand who him was, but the tone in the voice made it clear that it wasn't human. As Father Edmund continued the prayers, the air grew thick. The floor beneath them vibrated softly, then stronger, until the wooden pews began to rattle. One of the sisters dropped her rosary. The sound of beads scattering across stone echoed like tiny bells. Then Maria screamed. It was not a human scream. It was layered, high and low, full of fury and sorrow. The windows shook. Candles reignited on their own, bursting into tall flames that threw dancing shadows across the walls. For a split second, one of the shadows looked like a child reaching for her. Father Steve splashed holy water over Maria's forehead. The instant the water touched her, she shrieked and threw her head back. Steam rose from her skin as if it had burned her. Her voice broke into sobs. "It hurts. It hurts to leave him," she cried. But the voice that said those words was hers, truly hers, and for a moment it felt like Maria had returned. Father Edmund pressed forward. "Maria, you are safe. God is here. You must let go." But her expression changed again, twisting from sorrow to rage in one breath. "You cannot take him from me," she roared, and the flames blew sideways as if a storm had rushed through the hall. Her chair lifted an inch off the floor and dropped with a heavy thud. The sound reverberated like thunder through the old church. Father Edmund began the final prayer, louder now, commanding the voice to depart. "In the name of all that is holy, release this child." Maria's body convulsed. Her wrists bled where the ropes had rubbed raw. The blackness in her eyes flickered like a dying flame. Then came a whisper, small and cold. "He's not gone. He's here." Father Edmund stopped. Who is here? Maria pointed upward, her arms shaking violently. The candles flickered again, revealing words scratched faintly into the wall above her, letters that no one remembered writing. Forgive me, Mother Agnes gasped. Those weren't the before. Maria's breathing grew shallow. Tears rolled down her cheeks. He was my child, she whispered. Her voice was soft now, human again. They said he was gone, but I heard him cry. The priest's fuss. It made sense now. The grief, the guilt, the whisper about calling someone back. Whatever haunted Maria wasn't a demon from the stories. It was grief so deep it had opened a door that was never meant to open. The candles dimmed to half their light. Father Edmund knelt beside her, lowering his voice. Maria, he's at peace. You must be too. Maria looked up, her face pale and tired. Then why does he still cry? A faint sound drifted through the air, like a baby's sob, soft but clear. Every heart in the room froze. The sound grew louder, then faded again, leaving only the echo. Maria's lips quivered. You hear him too? Father Steve stepped back, trembling. It's not real, it can't be. But Father Edmund didn't move. He took the cross from his neck and placed it gently into Maria's hand. You must let him go. For a long moment, Maria didn't move. Then she nodded slowly. I'm sorry, she whispered. A tear fell onto the cross. The lights flickered once more. And all at once, everything stopped. The shaking, the whispers, the cold. The church grew still. Maria's head fell forward, her breathing even. Her hands went limp around the cross. Father Edmund waited, praying under his breath. Finally, she looked up. Her eyes soft brown again, clear and alive. Is it over? She asked faintly. No one answered. The priest looked around the church, half expecting another sound, another movement, another flicker of darkness. But there was nothing. The night outside was calm again. They untied her carefully, helping her to her feet. She walked slowly, weak but steady. The sisters cried quietly, hugging each other in relief. Days later, the church closed its doors. Maria was sent to a quieter place to recover. The nuns prayed for her every night. But sometimes, just sometimes, when the candles burned low, the sisters swore they heard faint footsteps in the chapel, and a woman's soft voice, whispering lullabies to someone they could not see. The exorcism was over, but faith and fear still lived together in St. Mary's Sacred Heart Church. And sometimes, when the wind blew through the cracks in the stone, it carried a whisper that sounded like a child's cry, followed by a gentle, tired voice saying, "Hush now, rest." To this day, no one ever entered that church again after sunset.